Hi students, today in this session we are going to discuss another component of your alimentary tract. It's called the rectum. In the previous class we have finished the sigmoid colon, and sigmoid colon, as we told you, that will start here at the pelvic inlet as a result of continuation of the descending colon, and that will finish at the level of third sacral piece. Sigmoid colon story finishes there. And you know that the sigmoid colon story finishes, but the alimentary tract continues. Means this colon should finish here, but the next portion should start. Why don't you call that also the colon? The reason is that because the colon, it was having three characteristic features, and these three features, they are not present in this today's topic, that is called the rectum. Because immediately you see abruptly all these three features which you have previously discussed here. These are the hostrations, the tinea coli, and the appendices epipulae. These three features which were present here in the colon, which made actually the colon as referred to as colon, these all three features abruptly finish. If these all three features abruptly finish, means there is no tinea coli. There are no tinea coli, but the longitudinal fibers are there, they continue. But they are not in form of bands now, they spread, and now they will actually give you a circumferential continuous covering around that organ which we are going to discuss. It's called the rectum here. So you see these all these tinea coli are no longer, and they will form continuous longitudinal fibers around that organ, around the rectum. Number one. Peritoneum, which was present there and forming the tinea, forming the appendices epipulae, peritoneum present here also. But this peritoneum, it is partially covering it, and we will tell you this peritoneal coverings here, but it's partially covering it. It's not forming any appendices epipulae, and at the same time you don't have hostrations or the circulations present here. So it is no longer an organ that could be called as the colon. That's why we changed its name, and its name has been actually called. It has been called as the rectum. Rectum means straight, and when you look at this organ, this is probably one of the most curved and bent and curved organs in the body, you can say. That means the most inappropriate name on the organ has been actually kept here. Means it is the most curved organ, and you call it the rectum. Rectum means straight. You see, rect word has been used actually dozens of times in the anatomy here. Recta, you see, recta extraocular muscles, recta, rectus femoris, rectus abdominis. A lot of rectus word has been used at multiple times. You see that is rectus means straight. Every straight thing is actually called here the rectus. Gyrus rectus in the brain. A lot of things. You see more than 2 dozens of times the rectus word has been actually used here. But here you see this. Why the rectum word has been actually kept on this organ which is already curved? We will tell you that because this organ was initially studied in a vertebrate, that was the mouse. It was actually studied in the mouse, and in the mouse this rectum was found to be straight. So the name was kept rectum. So now in every species, no matter how much curved it is, no matter how much coiled, even if it is coiled here, you will call this the rectum. Because you see all vertebrates will have the similar name to that organ. So analogous, you see this is homologous to that organ in the human being, but in the human being it was found to be curved, but still the name will be rectum. So this rectum, you see that it is around 5 to 6 inches in length. This starts as a result of continuation, you see, of the previous organ, that was the sigmoid colon. The sigmoid colon finishes at the level of the third sacral piece, so that it starts from third sacral piece. It will be just sleeping upon the next 2 pieces of the sacrum in its hollow, in its concavity. So that means if it is lying in its concavity, so anterior-posteriorly it will be curved also. One curve is this. This is anterior posterior curve, longitudinal curve also, because it has to mold according to the shape of the sacrum, till it will reaches to the tip of the coccyx here. When it reaches to the tip of the coccyx, this rectum should finish here again. And again the rectum should finish. Why we say the rectum should finish? It should reach the surface. Like alimentary tract, alimentary canal should reach the surface. Yes, it will reach the surface, but the rectum will change its name to another organ, because that organ will be more canalicular. That organ has this simply different, totally different morphology. Its histology is different, everything is different. So it will no longer be called as the rectum, and that will be called as the anal canal. And that anal canal will open at the surface at an opening that is called the anus. That we will actually discuss in the next class. This is called the rectum. A rectum starts at the third piece of the sacrum as a result of continuation of the sigmoid colon, and runs now in the hollow of the sacrum till it reaches at the tip of the coccyx. And at the tip of the coccyx, you know that there is a pelvic diaphragm. Means above the pelvic diaphragm up to pelvic inlet, it is the true pelvis. So that means it is a very much true pelvic organ. Means it is a very much organ of the true pelvis. It's not lying in the entire true pelvis obviously, because it starts at the level of the third sacral piece. So that means almost half of the true pelvis it can travel until it reaches the superior surface of the pelvic diaphragm that is formed by the mostly levator ani muscle. Watch this. See, this is levator ani muscle, and here rectum is coming, and when it is get passed through the levator ani, then the next portion will now be after the levator ani, after the pelvic diaphragm. You see the true pelvis is called the perineum. So that means beyond the levator ani muscle, in the perineum, when you are actually going to the perineum, it is no longer rectum, its name will become anal canal. Means anal canal is a totally 100% perineal organ, and rectum is 100% the pelvic organ, the true pelvic organ. It's the organ of the true pelvis. But in the true pelvis, it's not actually going through the entire length of the true pelvis. Obviously, it starts here from the S3 vertebra. So it S3 means it is sacral, third sacral piece here. So you will actually see this, that means, and in its total length, it is hardly 5 to 6 inches that we see here. That means it starts here till the apex of the tip of the coccyx here. And when it reaches the tip of the coccyx, you know that the upper surface of levator ani muscle comes. Levator ani muscle means it is a muscle which when relaxed, it is down, it is in the sloping here. And when it gets contracted, we see when contract that, it's lifted here, and it's not just lift up here, it will lift the anal canal also. It stretches the anal canal. You see that it lifts it here. That's why we call them levator ani, elevator of the anus. That's why the muscle is named. 90% of your pelvic diaphragm is constituted by the levator ani, and the 10% is the coccygeus. Levator ani word has been actually put like this, and you know already that muscles names are like their function. You see, it's likewise muscles names are actually put like this. Initially the function, then the organ upon which the function is being done, and then if the two letters are, say the two words are enough, then the third word is not required. But when the third word is required, then it has to be put here. Like for example, if the levator ani muscle would have been two, for example, one superficial, one deep. So one will be called as a levator ani superficialis, levator ani profundus. Profound means the deep. Likewise, so muscles nomenclature is like this here. But incidentally, we don't have two levator ani, we have just one levator ani. When the levator ani is just one, just levator ani, these two words are enough. And if for example you see in this also, we told you that it passes through the levator ani. It passes through the levator ani muscle, and if you remember, we told you that if the pelvic diaphragm, if you have seen the pelvic diaphragm, most anterior, so the middle portion of the pelvic diaphragm was called the pubococcygeus. Most medial fibers of pubococcygeus, this was called sphincter vaginae or levator prostrate, which is attached to the perineal body. Next group of the fibers which actually comes here, that comes and sweeps around the end of the rectum. Are you say end of the rectum or beginning of the anal canal? Why do you call it anorectal junction? So these fibers will sweep around the anorectal junction. Sweep around the anorectal junction, so they will actually look like this. So if they are sweeping around the anorectal junction like this, and because they are attached to the pubis bones here on the back surface of the pubis, they come from the back surface of pubis, you see this, and they will come from both sides here, and they will form here a cylindre around the anorectal junction. It's cylindre around like this. And around the anorectal junction, these fibers, because they start from the pubis and they are winding around, you see that, sweeping around the rectum, end of the rectum. That's why these fibers are called the puborectalis fibers. This is the pubococcygeus. Second set of the fibers is called the puborectalis. Initial fibers were called the levator prostrate. Next fibers are called the puborectalis, and the last will be called the pubococcygeus proper. All the central portion is called the pubococcygeus, that is supported by the lateral more 50% more adult fibers, we call them iliococcygeus. Iliococcygeus and pubococcygeus, these three portions together you call them levator ani, that will be supported most posteriorly by coccygeus, together you call them pelvic diaphragm. So it is now lying on the pelvic diaphragm, and we told you that it is lying on the pelvic diaphragm. It is being actually covered here, say like this here. You see this, the fibers, this red color fibers which I was telling you. Watch it here. This is rectum and this is anal canal. And here this is the junction, end of the rectum here, and here the beginning of anal canal. Total you see beginning of anal canal, and this portion, this is red color which we are actually showing you, this is the pubococcygeus second unit, that is called the puborectalis fibers. All other pelvic diaphragm has been removed here. This one set of the fibers, the pubococcygeus fibers, are being actually shown here. This is taking origin from the back of the pubis, is making here a syringe around the anorectal junction. So anorectal junction means above this, above the pelvic diaphragm is the rectum, and below the pelvic diaphragm will be the anal canal. This indicates, that means all your 100%, see, all your 100% rectum is in the pelvic cavity proper, and all your anal canal 100% it will be in the perineum. And here it will be this, these are puborectalis fibers now which are in fact here. So these are the puborectalis fibers here. Watch, it's a very important fibers, you call them puborectalis. This is puborectalis fibers. And here it's being shown you here, these fibers will be the puborectalis here. This is the levator ani muscle. So these most medial fibers which are sweeping around the anorectal junction, these are the puborectalis fibers. So here in this diagram, in cut section, this is the coronal section. In this sagittal section, you are actually watching. In totality, you are actually watching this. This is puborectalis fibers here. And when the puborectalis fibers will actually be moving around the anorectal junction, like this, around the anorectal junction, from the pubis front, around the anorectal junction. So if they are actually having a tonic contraction, so due to contraction, they are pulling them forward like this. If they are pulling them forward here, you see anal canal will be directed posteriorly. Rectum stays there. Anal canal is directed posteriorly. Otherwise, you see when the puborectalis fibers are not contracting, for example, if the tonic contraction is not there, rectum and the anal canal will be at 180 degree. But when this is here, because there is always the continuous tonic contraction here into the puborectalis fibers, so always they are in a contracted position like here. So there is an angle. This is called the anorectal angle. This anorectal angle is so much so that from 190 it will become, we say from 180 it will become 90, or sometimes it is even more acute, it will become now even 80. Means it will be reduced by almost 100 degrees, you see. Reduced by 100 degrees means it is like straight here, and due to puborectalis tone, anal canal will be like here. You see anorectal junction will be created, and this is a very important mechanism to hold the feces or hold the fecal mass in the rectum now. And this is actually the anorectal junction. Fecal continence is maintained here by the tone of the puborectalis fibers, and this is actually having the constant I say tonic contraction here. So these are the puborectalis fibers. You see the puborectalis fibers are there here. Anorectal junction you have seen again. And we told you that when this will be, for example, if the rectum is filled to just 25% of its capacity, it will start here, and it will start here the urge to defecate here. So urge of defecation starts when the rectum is filled by just 25% of its original capacity. Defecation reflex start, urge to defecate starts here. And here if you are actually watching here, so this angle which we are telling you here, this angle between anal canal and the rectum, this angle is between 80 to 90, okay, average you see roughly it is 80 degree. This is called the anorectal angle. So anorectal angle is maintained by the tone of the puborectalis, and puborectalis, you know that it is the middle part of the pubococcygeus, which has got the anterior or the medial part being levator prostrati, and the posterior bigger part is called pubococcygeus proper. This is the middle portion that is called the puborectalis. All these three together is called the pubococcygeus. Plus ileococcygeus, if you add 50%, you call them now levator ani. Not still the pelvic diaphragm. When the 10% more will be added with the name coccygeus, then you will call it pelvic diaphragm. And you see above the pelvic diaphragm, you are having the pelvic cavity proper, and in that pelvic cavity proper, last half you can say, distal half, this rectum is lying. At rectum is lying means it's resting on the pelvic diaphragm, resting on the levator ani muscle, and when this resting on levator ani muscle, when it reaches there, immediately it dilates here. That is called the rectal ampulla. Means the lowest dilated part of the rectum, which is now lying on the levator ani muscle, it is called rectal ampulla. Means this is called rectal ampulla. You see this will be last portion is called what? Rectal ampulla. So here this portion is called rectal ampulla. So here again, here you can call this as rectal ampulla. And after that, levator ani muscle comes, it passes through the puborectalis fibers, and now the next journey's name will no longer be rectum, it will be now anal canal, because pelvic cavity proper has finished, perineum has started. But in the anal canal also, the features are almost same as that of the rectum here, and the rectum has almost the same features with some differences, with some modifications, as you have seen these features in other parts of the GIT. It has from outside, if you see, it has the peritoneum, though partially, and where the peritoneum is not there, it is covered with the adventitia fascia, pelvic fascia. And when you see here, after the peritoneum or the pelvic fascia, you have got the outer longitudinal muscles, you have got inner circular muscles, you have submucosa, you have muscular mucosae and mucosa, etc. Then you come to the lumen. Obviously, there are a lot of changes. Mucosa is not as the mucosa you seen in the colon. Here, a lot of goblet cells will be there to give the lubrication. So here, these cells are here, and this would be the structure, and this is what we call here the rectum. And in this rectum, especially, I told you the rectum was called straight organ, but it's not straight. Already you have seen it is lying in the curve of in the concavity of the sacrum. So it is already having a longitudinal have the longitudinal curve. But at the same time, it has got lateral curves also, 3 lateral curves, which in fact informally divides the rectum into three portions here, the upper 1/3, middle 1/3 and lower 1/3. They are bulged, you see, they are curved, you can say, not bulged as such, they are curved. One curve is different, it is one curve is in one direction, another is in another direction, the third one is in another direction. So it is like a zigzag, you can say. A zigzag means it has the lateral curves. At the same time, anterior-posterior curve also, because of the shape of the sacrum. Despite all these curves being anterior-posterior curve, 3 lateral curves, still this organ is called rectum. Amazing. This is called the rectum. So the most inappropriate name kept on any organ can be the rectum. Is the most inappropriate name that you have seen. Now in this also, if you see the curves, look at these curves. Now look at this diagram. This is first 1/3, this is second 1/3, and this last 1/3 is proximal, middle and distal 1/3. Again important from peritoneal point of view and from the shape of the curves point of view. See, these are the lateral curves which I have told you there, and this is a levator ani muscle. Puborectalis fibers are this one. These are the puborectalis fibers, and this is levator ani muscle. So it is passing through. So below this levator ani, in this level, you see below that levator ani here, this is the perineum, and this is pelvic cavity proper. So this is actually in pelvic cavity proper, and this is lying in the perineum. And you have already seen here at the lower level of S3 vertebra until the tip of the coccyx. This is the rectum, and already you see this is the curve, anterior posterior curve, because of the curve of the sacrum and the coccyx. So here see this and another curve is the lateral curves. This is the sagittal section. In sagittal section you will not be able to see the lateral curves. So here you are seeing the anterior posterior curve. See again in case of male, in case of female, and you are watching here the lateral curve. Here in this diagram, because this is coronal section, that's why you are not watching here the anterior posterior curve, but you are watching lateral curves. So watch this upper 1/3. In the upper 1/3 especially, you see this upper 1/3. Upper 1/3, it is like this. Means it is a convex on the right and concave on the left. It will be, you say it will be like this. Means you can see here, it is a convex, you see, it is convex on the left, it's a convex on the right and concave on the left. Number 1, this is upper 1/3. Middle 1/3, you see it will be convex now on the left, concave on the right. Lower 1/3, again it will be now, see, convex now on the right and the concave will be on the left, you see. So it will be like this, then the last will be also like this, but this middle one will be like this. You see, convex, concave, convex. Here concave, convex, concave. This is first one third, this is second one third, this is last one third. These are the 3/3 you see that. You can imagine that how it is like curved like here. And these are called the 3 curves. And these are called 3 curves means it is not just a anterior-posterior curve because of the curve of the hollow of the sacrum, but it is also having the lateral curve. So you are actually watching these lateral curves. You see this is here convex now, bulged here, having a belly you see on the right side, and it is having a concavity on the left here. Then convexity on the left, concavity on the right, and here convexity again on the right and concavity on the left here. So all this which you are actually watching until there is ampulla, because the levator ani muscle has reached here, now it has the ampulla, and ampulla, after that ampulla, the story of rectum is over. Now it will become now the anal canal, and this is another story, another topic that we will discuss next. Now in this, especially if you are looking at this, these concavities and convexities, they are important. Important in the sense we have told you already that in this especially, it has got the outer longitudinal, inner circular, all these layers are there, mucosa, submucosa, etc. But if you look at inside, and if you see this lumen of the rectum by the proctoscope, anything related, any procedure related to the rectum is called, starts with the proctoscopy, and even any surgical procedure related to the rectum is also start with the procto. It's called the proctectomy. Proctectomy means you have removed this rectum. Proctoscopy, and if you are actually looking in this here, or even the inflammation is called the proctitis. It's not like called rectitis, it is called proctitis. So it will be like here. So if you are actually looking at this, so where from you see that where there is a concavity, from the concavity part here, so from the concavity, if this is now right sided is the convex, but left sided is the concave. From the concavity, your fold of mucosa is actually having here like here. It is folded here. Means it will be folded, means it will come here in the lumen now. It will come in the lumen here. Lumen, not across the entire lumen. Hardly you see 10-15% it will come out. So it will be like a crescentic fold will be created by the mucosa. It's not just by mucosa, many other things will come, so much so that the outer, I say, muscular layer will also come into that. But which muscular? Not the longitudinal, circular muscle fibers will also come into this fold. Means if this is the circular muscle fiber, so they will come into this. You call these folds as the rectal folds, transverse rectal folds. And this rectal fold has come from where? From concave side here. And concave side is present to which side? To the left side. So this transverse rectal folds, which is a crescentic fold, which has actually come here into the lumen for hardly 15 to 20%, that has actually come. And this will be, it will not be actually flappy here, it will be a little stronger and as a little stiff here. Why? Because muscular layer has also come into this fold. It will give it the stability, and that muscular layer is not the longitudinal but the circular. Inner circular muscle fibers are present in this fold also, and it is covered with the mucosa. These are the transverse mucosal folds, transverse rectal folds, but they are not just mucosal. They have got inner circular muscle inside them also to make them little stiff now, to make them little stable, and they will be present here. This is the first transverse rectal fold, and this is called the rectal valves also. The valves of Houston we call them sometimes. And this is called the transverse rectal fold. So these are the number 1 transverse rectal fold, the upper one, and this upper one emerges from where? That projects from the left side. This is the upper one. But when you come into the middle portion, because middle portion it was convex from the left but the concave from the on the right here. So this time the fold is emerging from the right side. This is second rectal fold, the middle rectal fold, middle rectal valve, previous name. Now we call the middle rectal fold. This is a transverse rectal fold which is coming from here. It's not just a mucosal fold. I told you that it's coming here, everything, including transverse, including the inner circular muscle fibers also. This is a much larger from the upper one. The largest among all these 3 is the middle rectal fold, which come from the right side. Why right? Because the concavity is from the right. But when you come down here, again you see that again here the convexity here is to the right and concavity from the left. So this time the next and the last you see lowest middle, say lowest rectal folds again comes from, this comes from again the left side, and this is again stiff. Why? Because, and this is also small. and it also comes here. So that means the middle rectal fold can actually project into the lumen more than 30-35% in the lumen. And if you are inferior one, hardly 15 to 20, and the upper one also 15 to 20% into the lumen here. And if you will actually look at and open the entire lumen and will actually make it the flat here, you see these will be crescentic folds here. And these crescentic folds have in fact divided the lumen completely into compartments. So the fecal mass that will be present here, it will not be in a single column, it will be broken. So the fecal mass actually it will be in pieces, not like a single column. And there are a lot of other advantages also. And this is called the rectal force. We call these rectal force as here, these are called the transverse force of the rectum. You call them even these are sickle shaped or the crescentic force formerly called as the rectal valves here are called the Houston's valves. And if you have seen them, these are the three rectal force until you reach the ampulla. And beyond the ampulla means beyond the levatorni muscle, the perineum starts. So I told you that the whole game of rectum finishes here. Now in this especially, now if you are looking at this, we have told you previously also from the peritoneal coverings point of view, this is partially covered with the peritoneum. It is not totally retroperitoneal, it is partially covered with peritoneum, and now you can focus on its upper 1/3, middle 1/3 and lower 1/3. If you look at this upper 1/3, this peritoneum is covering now, it is coming down here. After it has totally covered the sigmoid colon with it having a inverted V like mesentery also, root of mesentery was there, everything we discussed. Now the rectum comes. When the rectum comes, when this peritoneum, you see this blue color, when this peritoneum reaches the rectum now, when it reaches the upper 1/3 of the rectum, this upper 1/3 of the rectum, so in the upper 1/3 of the rectum, it covers only, you say, it covers only the anterior as well as the lateral side here. Means not just anterior, but the lateral also. Means anterior lateral, not the posterior. Posterior is just sleeping comfortably on the hollow of the sacrum and separated from obviously by the pelvic fascia, etc. So it is actually likely. Now comes down here, when reaches the lower, I say middle 1/3, it will not be covering lateral sides, just front, means it is now leaving the lateral and now just in the front. Means initially it was anterior and lateral, I say this way, and now it is just anterior. That means when it reaches here to the anterior, means say only the anterior, means middle 1/3 of the rectum is covered just anteriorly by the peritoneum, not laterally this time. Posteriorly it was always absent. But the posteriorly it was the extraperitoneal fat, everything, pelvic fascia, then the sacrum, and surely not just sacrum, obviously there will be piriformis muscle, and over the piriformis muscle is lying at the sacral plexus. So that means it will be pressurizing the sacral plexus, posterior relation of the rectum is the sacral plexus. So here this will be, and after that when reaches into the lower 1/3, it does not reach, the peritoneum does not reach the lower 1/3, means at the junction between posterior, I say middle 1/3 and the lower 1/3, or you can say upper 2/3 and lower 1/3. Right here it reflects anteriorly. It reflects anteriorly means if in case of female, watch here, if in case of female it has gone up to the middle 1/3. So in case of female, when you are actually going here, see this is in case of female, it comes now anteriorly and it will be the posterior fornix of the vagina. And in the posterior fornix of vagina, and then it will be covering the entire uterus here, a pouch will be created. And the pouch will be created, that pouch is called the POD, you call them pouch of Douglas, or recto-uterine pouch, and you know that already the contents we discussed previously. So this is called the recto-uterine pouch has been created here. So peritoneum is covering the rectum this way. In case of male, again same, but this time when it is reflecting anteriorly, right at the same upper 2/3 and lower 1/3, or you can say middle 1/3 and lower 1/3. Here if it is actually going, again it is coming anteriorly, but this time you know that it is coming so down here that this time it will go onto the posterior surface with the base of the urinary bladder, and base of urinary bladder not full, the top surface of the base of urinary bladder, means it is covering 1/4 of the posterior surface, and at that posterior surface not naked here, you know that is lying the vast difference in tops of the seminal vesicles. So they will be, their tops will be covered by the peritoneum, and here it will be now onto the superior surface of urinary bladder. So here again a pouch is created, but this time this pouch is called a rectovesical pouch. Again contents will be same like sigmoid colon and obviously the coils of ileum. Now, after the peritoneal reflections, you should actually see some important relations now. As far the important relations, posterior relations are in case of male, female, they are same. Already you see the sacrum, obviously the coccyx also. And you already know that on the posterior surface, not just here, but it's covered with the piriformis, so it will be related to that. Anterior sacral foramina will be there, and from anterior sacral foramina will come out the anterior rami of the sacral nerves. They join together. Anterior rami, already you know that all the anterior rami, if any plexus is formed, it will be always from the anterior rami. And anterior rami almost always form the plexuses, except when they are the anterior rami of the thoracic nerves, whose nickname is intercostal nerves. They don't form plexuses, though contribute to some extent in the plexus, like T1 contributes in the brachial plexus, but you see that usually they don't form plexuses. But remaining all anterior rami form plexuses. So here anterior rami of your sacral nerves, they form the plexuses, you call them sacral plexus, though it is connected here with your lumbar through the lumbosacral trunk also, and this is called the sacral plexus. And not just sacral plexus, sympathetic trunk will be also related posteriorly to this. That's what we actually discuss, and we will tell you that how it will be posteriorly is related to the sympathetic trunk and what will be its implications. But anteriorly, if you will see, you see this all as a sacrum, you see this sacrum in case of male, and also sacrum in case of female, and here will be related all these things. You see piriformis, sacral plexus, sacrum itself, they are all related to this. But anteriorly you are watching here, the anteriorly the rectum is related, in case of female it is related here to what? It is related here to the posterior fornix, anterior related to the pouch of Douglas, and it will be related to the contents of pouch of Douglas, that is sigmoid colon, etc., like here, and these will be related to this. And here in case of male, it will be related posteriorly to the posteriorly, it will be related to the to urinary bladder. But below, if you are actually going here, this lower part of the lower part of I say lower 1/3, but anteriorly, so upper 2/3 are anterior related to the pouches here, peritoneal pouches, rectovesical, and here in case of female it is the POD. But here this one, lower 1/3, which was devoid of the peritoneum, because peritoneum is no longer here, so pouch is not there. So if its pouch is not there, so this lower 1/3 anteriorly will be related to the rest of the posterior surface of urinary bladder, means the rest of it means all the seminal, vesical and vas deferens, and if you are coming more down here, it will be related here to almost half of the prostate. Which prostate? The prostate which will be in the pelvic cavity proper, because half the prostate will pass through the levator prostatic fiber to come into the perineum. So rectum will not be anteriorly related to the lower part of the prostate, it will be related to the upper part of prostate, but the lower part of prostate is in the perineum. It has already passed through the, half of the prostate is in the pelvic cavity proper and half is in the perineum, just like a vagina. More than half is in the pelvic cavity proper and less than half will be in the perineum. So here the lower 1/3 of, means last 1/3 of rectum anteriorly in male will be related to what? It will be related to the lower, say upper half of the prostate, and surely not upper half of prostate, but also the posterior surface of, remaining posterior surface of the urinary bladder. But here in case of female, the lower half of the rectum will be posterior related to what? It will be posterior related to the vagina. Which part of vagina? The pelvic part of vagina, because the half of the vagina is lying in the perineum. So it will be present here like here. So that means when there is a compression, you see there is a compression, there is a fistula formation on the posterior wall of the vagina can make fistula with the rectum, recto-vaginal fistula, that we have discussed in the female genital organs also. And here rectum can make actually problem. Here you see here the fistula formation, recto-vesical fistula is possible, but here you see that between the posterior surface of urinary bladder and also the prostate there is a fascia. This fascia is called the fascia of Denon-Villiers. You say recto-vesical fascia of Denon-Villiers, that separates the lower 1/3 of the rectum from the posterior surface of the prostate. So the CA prostate will be prevented from spreading by this Denon-Villiers fascia. We call them recto-vesical fascia, though temporarily, because after that you see it will be disrupted and the rectum will be involved here. And when the rectum involvement you see, and if the rectal carcinoma of CA rectum is there, posteriorly it will now involve the roots, I say involve the sacral plexus, and will involve the sacral plexus, so the referred pain will be on the back, and it will be also sciatica will be there. That's a very important implication, very important relation of the rectum behind to the sacrum, can involve even the bone, can involve the nerves, And in all the nerves, you see sacral plexus mostly it is supplying the lower limbs. So you can have even, and the roots of the lower limb, especially your sciatic nerve, is actually coming from sacral plexus, though from lumbosacral also, but lumbosacral also connects the sacral plexus. Lumbosacral trunk is there, but lumbosacral trunk is connecting with the sacral plexus. So rectum can get the involvement, I say can get and anchors upon the sacral plexus and can have even the sciatica. It is having a relation with the vagina, so vaginal fistulas, see a prostate. So you see all these things, they are related here. So the relation of the prostate with the rectum, relation of the urinary bladder with the rectum, relation of the rectum with the vagina, they are important. A relation of the rectum behind with the sacrum and the sacral plexus, they are very, very important in this sense here. This we will discuss more when we will be discussing the lymphatics of the pelvis and the perineum, and blood supply and venous drainage and nerve supply here. So in this also, this is called the relations, important relation. Important relations means these are those relations which are clinically, they are significant here. So this was the class on rectum. In the next session, we will again meet for another discussion and the last part of the alimentary tract, alimentary canal, that is called the anal canal. Again important from many aspects here.